Starting in the 90s, WWE labeled their women divas. It was only in 2015 when the women's revolution came that the division once again became about in-ring acumen rather than being eye candy. This is Wrestling Up and we're talking about top divas in WWE history and where they are now. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Up and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Candice Michelle was a model before her time in WWE. She took part in the 2004 WWE Divas search, and although she was not chosen in the final 10, she was still hired. While at first she was supposedly only there in a role as a makeup artist, she was used in several contests, including lingerie shows and Limbo. She would soon enter the ring, but the main focus of her WWE career would be appearing in GoDaddy commercials and for Playboy. She won the women's title in 2007, yet a number of injuries saw her put out of action and eventually released in 2009. After retiring, she focused her attention on her family. She married Ken Gee Elric in 2005, having 3 children. Michelle did return to WWE in 2019 and won the 24/7 title by pinning Kelly Kelly before losing it to Alundra Blaze. The original diva Sunny became notorious as the valet of the Body Donnas, and she was Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Manager of the Year. She was even in a relationship with Shawn Michaels backstage. Unfortunately, while fans adored her, she had drug problems. Later, Sable was becoming successful while Sunny was not in the Attitude Era, which was eventually what led to her dismissal due to causing issues backstage. After that, she went through a lot more issues and took part in adult entertainment films. Between 2012 and 2013, she was arrested 6 times, while also being diagnosed with cervical cancer. Thankfully, she would be cancer-free and released a book about her experiences in the company. She has been arrested multiple times for DUIs, among other reasons, since then. She was most recently arrested on July 13th, 2020 for eluding an officer, as well as a violation of a domestic violence restraining order, and even operating a car while under a second license suspension. She was recently released from jail on June 9th this year. While Sunny might have been the original diva in WWE, Sable was the first person to actually refer to herself as a diva. Sunny had issues with Sable backstage, as from the moment of her arrival in the company as Mark Merrow's manager and real-life partner, the superstar started to immediately dominate. The spotlight was on her, and the fact was that at the time she was appearing regularly in scantily clad face-offs with different stars. She even appeared on 3 different Playboy covers during her WWE tenure. She would leave and they would become involved in a lawsuit for sexual harassment, but it was settled and she returned to WWE in 2003. She left again in 2004, but during her time there she was able to meet Brock Lesnar, and the two of them married in 2006, having 3 children, with them living in Saskatchewan on their farm. Starting with WWE in the middle of the Attitude Era, Lita certainly had the odds stacked against her. She acted as a valet to the Hardy Boys, making a splash through her ability to wrestle. Given her women's title run and feuds with Trish Stratus, Lita is a legend. She was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2014 after she returned from wrestling in 2007. She joined WWE as a trainer, producer, commentator, and even made some wrestling appearances for the company. In 2020, she, with Christy Hemme and Gail Kim, started Kayfabe, a wrestling show which blended drama with wrestling, but unfortunately they did not reach their target goal of $400,000 in the crowdfunding campaign, and the pandemic led to it failing. Possibly the most legendary women's wrestler, Trish Stratus did it all in WWE. She entered the wrestling scene in 2000, going on to win the women's belt 7 times, won Diva of the Decade, and was even a hardcore champion. She was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2013. She has since focused on her personal life and got married to her high school sweetheart. She has 2 children, and Lita is actually the godmother of her son. She also returned to WWE for the first Women's Royal Rumble, as well as the Evolution pay-per-view, retiring after she lost to Charlotte Flair at SummerSlam. Jazz started in ECW, where she wrestled in '99 and 2000 before making her debut in WWE in '01. For the next 4 years, she would be feuding with Stratus, Jacqueline, Lita, and Victoria. She was released in '04 but has since continued to wrestle, even having a short return in 2006. She has appeared in the 2019 Casino Battle Royal at the AEW All Out pay-per-view. Since then, she has been in Impact and is the manager of Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellering, but officially ended her wrestling career after a title versus career match at Hardcore Justice earlier this year. While storylines for AJ Lee involved a guy in a romantic angle, she was an incredible wrestler. As a result, it was not a surprise when she led the division with the Divas title. Her feuds against the Bella Twins were the representation of wrestlers facing divas. She helped to indirectly bring about the end of the Divas era in WWE. Since leaving, she has written her own book and married CM Punk when she was still a part of the company. She also co-wrote a comic book series in 2019. Much like AJ Lee, Paige was one of the last divas hired by WWE, and she made an immediate impact on her main roster debut, winning the Divas title from AJ Lee. The fact that her family were famous in the world of wrestling helped her even further. Unfortunately, while she kicked off the best era of women's wrestling, an ill-timed relationship with Alberto Del Rio saw her spiral. She was caught violating WWE's wellness policy twice, as a result of which she was out of action for months. When she returned, she took her time before getting back to wrestling. She would come back, but a botched kick to the back when facing Sasha Banks saw her suffer an injury to her spine. That took her out of wrestling for good. She served as SmackDown GM before moving away from the position and working on Twitch. Chyna spent a large part of her career accompanying DX. She regularly wrestled against men like Jeff Jarrett, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Jericho. Following her breakup with Triple H and after leaving WWE, she entered the adult film industry. With substance abuse, this eventually led to her passing away in 2016 at only 46. Michelle McCool debuted in WWE during the Raw Divas Search in '04. She had a long career despite only placing 4th. Along with Layla, she formed Cool, and the two of them dominated. She won the women's title twice and the Divas Championship 2 times. She's been making some appearances since 2018 for special occasions. She also had an amazing year in 2010 when, in addition to winning titles and being declared PWI's Women's Wrestler of the Year, she married The Undertaker. The two welcomed a daughter in 2012, and in 2016 she was diagnosed with skin cancer but was successfully treated. Mickie James made her debut in '05 and started off as Trish Stratus' biggest fan, then soon started stalking her. The two would have one of the most entertaining feuds. While Trish left, Mickie stayed, winning 5 women's titles. Despite her success, WWE degraded her, making fun of her weight and storylines. She went on to sing after her WWE release, and released 2 albums and wrestled in TNA. She made her way back after the Women's Revolution. Unfortunately, when she was released, she opened up on how she was treated, getting back her belongings in a trash bag. James is married to fellow professional wrestler Nick Aldis. The two had a child with her, wrestling in the NWA and Impact. Kelly was only 19 when she debuted in '06. She made her name in ECW and went on to lose multiple women's title matches but remained a favorite before retiring in 2012. Since then, she has starred on E! Network's Wags as the fiancée of Sheldon Saray, and the two would later get married. They eventually got divorced, and now she is married to bodybuilder Joe Koba. She made her wrestling return in 2017 and since then has made appearances in the company in watch-alongs, as well as becoming the first female 24/7 champion. In the 5th edition of the Divas Search, Torres won and later won 3 Divas titles. She became an evil authority figure who made Zack Ryder's life hell. She even fired the Bella Twins during this run and humiliated Big Show and Teddy Long while serving alongside John Laurinaitis. She still took part in matches, but eventually after Laurinaitis was fired, she resumed her face role in the company. She won the Divas title but eventually lost it to Kaitlyn and requested a release for her wedding and instead focused on becoming an instructor in women's self-defense. She has since acted in multiple projects, including the 2016 film Skip Trace. She now focuses on her family and operates an event rental with her sister-in-law. She also has 2 sons with her husband. Nikki and Brie Bella rose in the height of the PG era. The contrast between them and AJ Lee was a clear disparity. Nikki and Brie's relationships with John Cena and Daniel Bryan were often named as a reason for their success. While they were never the best, they were a critical part of growth for the division. From 2015, due to injuries, the two made less appearances. They were a critical part of the show Total Divas and got their own show called Total Bellas. Nikki and Cena broke up in 2018, and she then got engaged to Artem, with them having a child in July last year. Brie, who married Daniel Bryan in 2014, gave birth to her first child in 2017 and her second hours after Nikki. Molly Holly was with the company between 2000 and 2005 and played the role of Hardcore Holly's cousin. She had an on-screen relationship with Spike Dudley. She won the women's title twice, and while she had memorable moments, getting her head shaved after a loss remains iconic. She also played Mighty Molly for a while, the superhero sidekick of the Hurricane, but betrayed him to win the Hardcore title. She would then have a singles career while partnering with Gail Kim at times, winning the title multiple times. She returned in one-off appearances on the WWE Network and in the first Women's Royal Rumble. She was eventually inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2021. In her personal life, she got married to Gino Benchouf in 2010. She is currently the women's lead coach in the Academy School of Professional Wrestling, led by Mr. Kennedy and Sean Davari. Victoria's feuds against Trish might be the most memorable. She wrestled in the company between 2002 and 2009, which saw her become champion twice. After WWE, she went to TNA where she won 5 Knockouts titles. She opened a wrestling-themed restaurant in Chicago, Illinois in 2013 and sold it in 2015. She ended up closing it after an incident with a gunman as Victoria incapacitated the perpetrator. Stacy Keibler was a part of the Invasion storyline while becoming a manager of the Dudley Boys. She would take part in a few lingerie competitions and had feuds against Trish and Lita as well as Torrie Wilson. She would also manage Test and Scott Steiner before leaving in 2006. She returned to WWE in 2011 and 2019 in special appearances. Her 2019 return was to induct Torrie Wilson into the Hall of Fame. She was even part of Dancing with the Stars and had guest appearances in How I Met Your Mother and Psych. She dated George Clooney between 2011 and 2013 and married Jared Probray in 2014 and went on to have 3 kids. Torrie Wilson entered the ring in 2001 and was one of the most consistent parts of the division until she left in 2008. She would feud with Trish Stratus, Lita, Dawn Marie, and was featured on Playboy in 2003 and 2004. She was also on reality shows and took part in music videos. After leaving WWE, she made appearances in 2009, 2012, and 2018 before being inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2019. In 2021, she competed in the Royal Rumble 20 years after her debut. In her personal life, her father Al Wilson, who was a part of a WWE storyline, passed away on April 4th, 2019. 2 days before Torrie was inducted. She married Justin Tupper in September of that year. Originally a part of WCW where she acted as the manager for Kevin Sullivan and later for Harlem Heat, Jacqueline joined WWE in '98. She began as a manager and in-ring girlfriend of Mark Marrow and kicked off her dramatic feud with Sable and went on to form an alliance called Pretty Mean Sisters with Terry Runnels and Ryan Shamrock. When she defeated Sable, Jacqueline became the first African American to win the women's belt. In her second title reign, she dropped it to Stephanie McMahon. In 2002, she came in second to Matt Hardy in a WWF edition of Fear Factor. Jacqueline also became the only woman in company history after Medusa and Daphne achieved the feat in WCW to hold the Cruiserweight title after defeating Chavo Guerrero. After losing it back to Chavo at Judgment Day, Jacqueline was released in June 2004 and joined TNA. In April 2016, she was inducted into the Hall of Fame and made a surprise entry at number 21 in the first Women's Rumble. After a career in modeling, Maryse was hired by WWE in 2006 from the Divas search. She was assigned to OVW and FCW before making her SmackDown debut in 2008. The French-Canadian star made a name for herself as a wrestler as well as a manager. In December of 2008, Maryse defeated Michelle McCool with Marie as the special guest referee to win her first Divas title. Her reign of 216 days remained the longest in the title's history until AJ Lee surpassed it. She became the first Diva to hold the belt twice when she beat Gail Kim in the finals of the Divas Championship tournament in 2010. Maryse Maryse was the manager of Ted DiBiase and mentor for Brodus Clay on NXT, before being released due to inactivity after undergoing an abdominal hernia surgery. Maryse got married to fellow WWE star The Miz in February 2014, with them having 2 kids. Maryse returned to WWE in April 2016 for Raw after WrestleMania 32 to help her husband win the Intercontinental title against Zack Ryder. The two continue to be a power couple on WWE TV and together appeared on the series Miz and Mrs. Natalya is a third-generation wrestler and a 2-time women's champion. She is the daughter of Hart Foundation member and Hall of Famer Jim Neidhart. After signing with WWE in 2007, Natalya debuted on the main roster a year later. She won her first title at the 2010 Survivor Series when she defeated Michelle, McCool, and Layla in a 2-on-1 handicap match. She was part of the first ever Divas tag team match, pairing up with Beth Phoenix to beat McCool. In July 2017, Natalya defeated Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Tamina, and Lana in a 5-way elimination match at Battleground to earn herself a title shot against Naomi at SummerSlam and came out victorious. With the win, she became the first woman to hold both the Divas title and SmackDown Women's belt. Natalya is married to Tyson Kidd, and their wedding was featured on the first season of Total Divas in 2013. Natty teamed up with Tamina January 2021 and went on to beat Jackson Baszler for the women's tag belts in May. Starting as a model, Melina began wrestling training in 2000 and joined WWE in 2004. She started out on SmackDown as the manager of Johnny Nitro and Joey Mercury. In February 2006, Melina won her first women's title, defeating Mickie James, and the two later participated in the first women's Fall Count Anywhere match. She went on to win the title 2 more times as well as become the Divas champion in October 2009, defeating Jillian Hall, who had just won the belt from Mickie James a few minutes earlier. She was released from WWE in August 2011 and later made a couple of appearances on occasions like Raw Reunion and Raw Legends Night. After years of on and off appearances on the independent circuit, Melina is signed to the NWA, where she made her debut in November 2019, assisting Marty Bell and Thunder Rosa to win the NWA Women's belt. She resumed her role as Thunder Rosa's manager after NWA's COVID-19 hiatus. Naomi signed with WWE in 2009 and became the inaugural winner of the FCW Divas title. The following year, she came second to Caitlyn in the all-female third contest of NXT. In 2012, Naomi made her main roster debut on Raw alongside Cameron as a team called the Funkadactyls as valets for Brodus Clay. She debuted her now iconic gimmick, the Glow, on SmackDown following the 2016 draft. Naomi became the first African-American woman to capture the SmackDown Women's title after defeating Alexa Bliss at the 2016 Elimination Chamber, but had to relinquish the belt due to injury. She regained the title by submitting Bliss at WrestleMania 33. Naomi was drafted back to Raw in 2020, where she teamed with Lana briefly to compete in the Tag Team Turmoil match. Naomi is married to longtime partner Jimmy Uso, which makes her a part of the Anoa'i family. After having a successful career as an amateur wrestler, Beth Phoenix trained for professional wrestling under the All-Nighters and made her debut on the independent circuit in May 2001. In 2005, she signed with WWE and debuted on Raw a few months later in 2006, but was sidelined for a few months due to a broken jaw. She won the women's title after returning to Raw with the Glamazon gimmick in 2007, defeating Candice Michelle at No Mercy in October and held it for 6 months. In 2010, Beth became the second woman after Chyna to enter the Men's Royal Rumble. She won the title a second time in an intergender match at 2008 SummerSlam, where she teamed up with on-screen partner Santino Marella to face Mickie James and Kofi Kingston for the women's title and intercontinental title respectively. At 2010 Extreme Rules, Phoenix beat Michelle McCool to win the title for a third time. In 2011 Hell in a Cell, she defeated Kelly Kelly to win the Divas title for the first time. She left in 2012, initially citing a focus on her family, but later revealed she was frustrated with how WWE was treating women. She is married to fellow WWE star Edge and has 2 children with him. She returned to the company and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2017. After a brief period of making in-ring appearances, Phoenix is now a full-time commentator on NXT. And these were former WWE Divas and where they are now. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.